Okay, guys, this is 8-6, the last section in the chapter, which means we're almost up to test time. We're going to take a couple of days to catch up on the last two sections and end up testing on Friday, a couple days worth of review. We've done variation functions a couple of times already. Last chapter we did variation functions. We learned about varying directly and inversely with a certain power. And then last section we did variation functions where that power wasn't necessarily a whole number. We would have a 0.6 power or a 1/7 power or something like that. Well, now we're going to do a different type of variation function where there are more than one independent variables affecting the dependent variable. And it lets you get a little bit more of a real life situation, because in real life many variables affect everything you do. These are still going to be pretty made up situations, but at least you have more than one thing affecting the outcome. So it's going to work just like they have worked in the past. The given info is that your grade on the test, G, varies directly with the number of hours you spend studying and inversely with the square of the number of hours you spend watching TV. So I'm going to give you in part A, like they always do, give you one data point, and that helps you find K, the constant of variation. Okay, so the general equation would be that grades vary. You need your K in here. Don't forget the constant, because these aren't exact values. Some constant K fits it to this situation. So if I watch, well, I'm going to go directly with the hours of studying, so K times S, and inversely with the square of the number of hours watching TV. So TV is going to be T, and that's going to be squared. And then the one data point, that tells me that if S is 1.5 hours, and if TV is 7 hours, that will give me a grade of 77, and I know that G is 77. And this is what lets you get K. And I know in the other video, you've got a couple options for K. You need to take this equation and solve it. So you need to take 77 and multiply it by 49 and divide it by 1.5 to figure out what K is. I like to get that value and store it in my calculator. 77 multiply by 49, because 7 squared, and divide it by 1.5. My K value is 2515.3333, and that's not that bad of a value, but you want to keep it exact as long as you can. And like Mr. Kistner said, you want to round it late. Don't round early, because if you use rounded numbers at the beginning and then you use them to make calculations, every step of the way is a little bit wrong, and if you use those numbers, it's a little bit more wrong. So if you can get this exactly, we can do that by storing it. This STO button on your calculator, hit that, and it'll take the answer, the latest answer you had, and you can make it any letter you want. I'm going to make it K, so I'm going to go alpha K, because that's the letter I'm using on paper. So now from here on out, this thing, my calculator recognizes K as that number. So if you just hit K, you get that number. You can use it in calculations. 2K should be 5,030 and 2/3. So from here on out, the calculator thinks K is my constant, which it should be. So it's when you write it out, you can write it. That's the written part isn't as important as the using it part. So it's 2515 1/3. So my particular equation is G equals 2515 1/3 times study hours divided by TV hours squared. And now this is the equation that I'm going to use. And you know the drill at this point. You use this equation to answer the following questions. All right, so in part B, you study 3 hours and you watch 10 hours of TV. What are you going to get? All right, so what's my grade going to be? My constant's 2515 1/3 times 3 hours of studying, which obviously, because this is on the top of the fraction, this is going to make my G value go up. But I'm going to watch 10 hours of TV, so that's going to make my grade go down. All right, so this is Not a big deal. 25, 15, and a third is k, so I'm going to start with k. I'm going to multiply it by 3, and I'm going to divide it by 10 squared. And I'm going to get a 75.46. Fair enough. Notice it's pretty close to our example grade. Um, the, the data point that they gave us, Willie's data point, he studied for an hour and a half and watched 7 hours. So this person studied more but watched more TV. So those kind of canceled the effects out, and they ended up with about the same grade. All right, a different way I could ask you this question is in C. If you're determined to watch an entire season of Honey Boo Boo, which I've never seen, but my friend Lindsay says it's a great show, and she never misses an episode. You're going to watch 15 hours of TV. How much are you going to have to study to get a 92? You're going to be given everything except one number. I'm telling you, you're going to end up with a 92. K is my number. You can write it as K if you want, if you've already determined what K is above. Times study hours. I don't know how much I'm going to study, but I do know that I'm going to watch 15 hours of TV. So we're solving here for S, so it's going to be 92 times 15 squared divided by K. So when I multiply 92 by 15 squared, I get 20,700. I need to divide that by K. You can still use K. And I'm going to need to study for 8.23 hours to get that A. Okay? All right, and the last one is not really a calculation, but more of a concept. What's going to be better for you, to double your study time or to cut your TV time in half? And this has to do with the variation. Study time is the first power. So if you double your study time, you should double your grade. TV time is inversely with the square, and we've kind of talked about these. If it's squared, that means it should have the same effect squared. So if you double your study time, because that's the first power, you're going to double your grade. If you do 1/2 the TV time, because that's on the bottom, and because it is squared, you are going to get 4 times grade, which is 2 squared. All right, so because it's squared, it has a much bigger effect. So I want to cut my TV time in half in order to get the best effect on my grade. All right, so I realize this whole set of notes is just one example, but you already know about variation functions. So we didn't need to go through all that stuff about what's K and all that, but we just needed an example or two, or one, about having more than one independent variable. So there you go, and we'll do some of these in class. Out.